But change has to come on all levels, not just the quarterback position. It may be in the coach position too.
Yeah.
Even with the comment of the talent or the skill set in Cleveland, I don't think Shedeur will be any better.
What?
I don't believe in the talent that's around at the receiver position. I don't think they have enough.
Mm.
Do I think Shedeur Sanders is capable of making an impact on any team? Absolutely. But I would hate for Shedeur to be pointed at as, I told you, he ain't no different either.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the Cleveland Browns play, it's like, yo, it's not just bad quarterback play, it's bad football play offensively as a whole.
So this presents a fascinating scenario where one can be both partially incorrect and partially correct simultaneously. Gentlemen, Cam Newton has just unleashed yet another stunningly provocative take. He posits that Shedeur Sanders will accomplish nothing beneficial for the Browns should he be elevated to the starting position. It sounds absurd, does it not? Because that is precisely the narrative that every single Shedeur detractor is currently propagating. But then in a crucial twist, he also concedes that Shedeur possesses significant potential. He is simply not a panacea for the profoundly awful offense that Stefanski has painstakingly built. Seriously though, is the offense truly in such a dire state of disrepair that even a genuinely good quarterback cannot single-handedly rescue it? Or is Cam Newton merely engaging in unfounded criticism for no discernible reason? What do you all believe? Do you think Shedeur could actually orchestrate a complete turnaround for the team if he were to start?
So that was Cam Newton, man. That was Cam Newton pretty much saying he don't think Shedeur will be any better. I definitely think Shedeur will be a hell of a lot better. You know, I got to disagree with Cam on that one.
Let's establish one point with absolute clarity. Cam Newton is demonstrably incorrect when he asserts that Shedeur Sanders would be of no use to the Cleveland Browns. Frankly, how can a quarterback possessing such a profound level of talent ever be considered useless? It is universally acknowledged that the most significant, glaring problem in Cleveland right now is the quarterback position. They have an offensive unit that is audibly crying out for competent leadership, and that is precisely the quality that Shedeur inherently brings to the table. A truly effective quarterback can fundamentally alter everything: the team's energy, its collective drive, and even its entire aesthetic on the field. So for Cam to suggest that Shedeur won't make a tangible difference, that's simply not a credible take. If anything, he represents the exact type of player who could single-handedly awaken this entire dormant team. Don't you think it's high time someone reminded Cam that a strong quarterback doesn't just execute passes, he meticulously builds confidence within a moribund offense? Now, regarding the second portion of Cam's commentary, he is not entirely mistaken, because let's be brutally honest, the Browns' offense has been floundering. I mean, truly struggling. We witnessed it with painful clarity in their recent contest against the Patriots. There were zero discernible efforts after the initial game script was exhausted, and a literal absence of creativity in the play calling. They could barely move the chains, consistently failed to convert on third downs, and their total yardage was frankly embarrassing for a team competing at the NFL level. How can one possibly expect positive results when the very system itself appears to be fundamentally broken? The offense seems afraid to take calculated risks, hesitant to open up plays, and honestly, that falls squarely on Stefanski. So yes, Cam certainly has a valid point. The offense is an absolute mess, but is it so irredeemably bad that a quarterback of Shedeur's caliber can do nothing to salvage it? Absolutely not, because a true franchise quarterback fundamentally transforms the system. Don't you agree that's exactly what the Browns desperately need right now? A profound shock to their system, and someone who can actually move the football and establish a completely new tone. At the end of the day, no one is naively suggesting the Browns can miraculously transform into winners overnight, but to behave as if this offense is a completely lost cause is simply inaccurate. Every struggling offense has the potential to turn around, provided it has the right individual behind center. A good quarterback does in fact transform the system. Grant Shedeur the opportunity, and you will witness receivers catching fire, offensive drives becoming more sustained, and the team's entire energy shifting dramatically. The Browns possess enough talented pieces. What they have been critically missing is someone who can effectively bring them all together and provide decisive leadership. So perhaps Cam Newton needs to seriously rethink his initial statement, because if Shedeur secures that starting position, we might just witness a completely different Cleveland Browns team. What are your thoughts? Is it truly the offense that is inherently bad, or is it merely missing its leader? Dillon Gabriel has been nothing short of awful as a quarterback. Every single game reveals the same chaotic mess. The offense appears utterly lifeless under his command, because how can you possibly expect results when your quarterback is incapable of making a decent play? It's abundantly clear he is only starting because Stefanski wants him there, not because he has legitimately earned the position. And that's precisely what makes the situation even worse. This is no longer about on-field performance, it's about Stefanski's intractable, stubborn loyalty. But why is he so blindly sticking with Dillon? Is it born from pure animosity towards Shedeur, or is there something else at play? Something intricately tied to financial considerations or complex internal politics?
Somebody had sent me this about this gentleman, Jimmy Sexton. Jimmy Sexton is a sports agent, and he's the current agent of Dan Lanning and Kevin Stefanski. Now, with that being said, you know, what does an agent do? You know, agents help you get to the bag. Agents help you continue to make money. Hell, I'm looking for an agent right now myself. Agents make sure you stay relevant, but more important, agents make sure relationships is always good with peers. Now, with that being said, Dan Lanning has the same agent.
Before we meticulously connect the dots, it's essential to first establish the identity of Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is the esteemed head coach of the Oregon Ducks, a program that stands as one of the most competitive and formidable in the entire landscape of college football. Lanning was Dillon Gabriel's coach back in his collegiate days, and their relationship is one with deep, long-standing roots. He embodies the type of coach who remains fiercely loyal to his players, regardless of the circumstances. And it is transparently obvious that he still maintains a significant soft spot for Dillon. He has repeatedly described him as incredibly hardworking, but let's be completely candid for a moment. Working hard is a commendable trait. Performing at an elite level is another matter entirely. You can dedicate every waking hour to training and still invariably choke when subjected to the intense pressure of a live game. And that is precisely what we have witnessed from Dillon, time and again. So yes, it's understandable that Lanning is proud of him for his effort, but is effort alone sufficient when your throws are consistently off target, your decision making is discernibly slow, and you are actively dragging the entire offense down with you? It sometimes feels as if these coaches fundamentally conflate personal loyalty with objective logic. And this is what he recently had to say about Dillon, that he's done an unbelievable job staying connected with his old teammates, that he still checks in with the Oregon guys, and that he's ready to make the most of his next chapter. I mean, that's great. Good for him, but honestly, shouldn't his focus be more intensely directed towards playing well rather than on maintaining connections with former teams? It's almost amusing how everyone consistently discusses Dillon's tireless work ethic and unimpeachable character, but absolutely no one mentions how profoundly uncomfortable and out of his depth he appears on the actual field. Lanning sounds proud, and perhaps that's perfectly fine from a coach's personal perspective, but fans are not invested in emotional speeches. They want tangible results. They want touchdowns, not heartwarming stories about how nice Dillon is. Because at the end of the day, being a good guy simply doesn't win games. Don't you think it's time people stopped hyping the effort and started demanding execution?
Yes, the same agency, bro. Now, with that being said, is there a conspiracy for Dillon Gabriel to play? At this point, I have to believe it is. I'm not going to sit up here and say, but this is my opinion. You know, I have to believe this is a conspiracy against Shedeur in every way, shape, form, or fashion. There's no conflict of interest, y'all don't think, right here? Like Jimmy had some Andrew Berry, I didn't think it was no conflict of interest in any shape, form, or fashion when it comes to drafting Dillon Gabriel, knowing Dan Lanning, his former coach, has the same agent as none other than y'all head coach.
And this is precisely where the circumstances begin to appear more than a little suspicious. As it turns out, Kevin Stefanski and Dan Lanning just so happen to be represented by the very same agent, the powerful Jimmy Sexton. One is at the helm of a major college program, the other is managing the Cleveland Browns, and yet both seem to religiously support Dillon Gabriel. This connection, while not illegal, is certainly one that makes people talk and invites scrutiny. People are now genuinely starting to question if Stefanski and Dan share share a more profound connection facilitated by their shared agent, or is there another, less transparent dynamic at play? Could there be financial incentives involved in some capacity? Is Dan Lanning actively pressuring Stefanski to maintain Gabriel as the starting quarterback, merely to protect his own reputation as a developer of talent? Or are both men simply too deeply mired in their mutual disdain for Shedeur? Whatever the underlying reason may be, it is beginning to cast a messy and unprofessional shadow over the entire situation, because here's the unavoidable fact: Stefanski continues to protect Gabriel even as the entire league is openly laughing at how dire the situation has become. Rival teams are now derisively labeling Stefanski and his offense as a mere gimmick. Fans are rapidly losing their patience, and yet Stefanski has nothing substantive to say. Or is it that this issue is simply not his focus for now? Why? Why does he persist in betting on a quarterback who is so clearly failing to deliver? Perhaps now it all begins to make a perverse kind of sense. The endless criticism Stefanski endures, the stubbornly ineffective play calls, the categorical refusal to give Shedeur a legitimate opportunity. It's as if no matter how many losses accumulate, he is resolutely determined to prove a point that absolutely no one else in the world still believes in. And honestly, at this advanced stage, one has to ask, is Dan Lanning actually preventing him from making the change that everyone is desperately waiting for? And is Stefanski being forced to do this, or is he acting willingly, driven by his own agenda to keep Shedeur sidelined for as long as he possibly can? And if that's not the case, then Stefanski needs to come forward and speak up. He cannot simply remain silent while these probing questions continue to mount. The fans deserve answers, and Shedeur unequivocally deserves fairness. You cannot keep a player of his caliber benched while feeding the media the same vague, non-committal statements week after week. It's not just stunting Shedeur's professional growth, it is actively tearing down the entire franchise. This kind of persistent silence only adds more fuel to the raging fire of rumors. Stefanski needs to confront this situation head-on and for once be transparent, because right now it appears as though he is hiding behind the same tired excuses while the team continues its downward spiral. Most importantly, Stefanski has to stop acting as if everything is fine when it is so clearly not. His vague, almost arrogant responses, curtly saying "next question," being evasive about the injury status of his players, or dismissing critical issues as not his focus, are only making everything significantly worse. Fans see right through it, and so do the players. If accountability is a standard that applies to everyone, then it must apply to Gabriel as well. Stefanski needs to articulate it publicly. Gabriel has to improve, and he has to do it quickly, because this is no longer just about a single player, it's about a team that is rapidly losing its direction, and the very first step toward fixing the problem is admitting what's broken. If Stefanski truly cares about this team's future, it's time to stop hiding behind flimsy excuses and start acting like a leader who values tangible results over personal preferences. If you've made it this far, make sure to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more updates, because this story is far from over. Big things are on the horizon, and you won't want to miss what happens next. So what do you guys think? Is Stefanski being coerced into sticking with Gabriel, or is this all stemming from his personal animosity toward Shedeur?